like stress and all of that, maybe we can do, and I could do this if you are okay with
We are
it.
live.
Okay, we're live. Hello.
Hello everyone to the workplace wellness live stream that Elisa and I are doing every week. It's been a bit of a crazy morning. Elisa and I were just talking about some computer issues, and I have been hacked. My LinkedIn account has been hacked, and I now cannot access my LinkedIn account. So I've reported it, and there have been some other strange things going on. So we again, it's one of those. So I think it's probably perfect timing because we're talking about high stress today, particularly in terms of when you have deadlines and time pressure. But there are other things like what's happening today that can cause stress as well. So, hi, Elisa.
Hello, Linda. It's nice to be here with you. And I think this is a perfect example of how things can come to us and maybe give us a little bit of stress. And I think it's just a matter of how we handle things and how we go with the flow and ask ourselves, is it really necessary to stress out? Is it really so important to for us to feel this way?
Hmm.
Maybe not, right?
And I understand, for me and for you, for something like this, especially for me with being hacked and, not having access to my account. Yes, it is stressful, especially because I wanted to do this
Yes.
live stream right now. But there's nobody there's nobody breathing down my neck telling me you have to do this at this time. So I understand that when someone is in a work environment and somebody else is waiting for you to do something, or maybe there are many projects that you have to do and you've got that sort of person or people breathing down your neck, that's a whole different sort of level of stress. I understand that. So Elisa, what guidance and advice do you have for us on that?
Yes, and that's a tough position to be in when somebody's waiting for you and it's like on your neck, pretty much like, okay, is it ready? Is it ready?
Mm.
But then I think the question is, why so much pressure now? Is this something that just happened last minute and it was a change of plans? Because honestly, I would, we'll try to plan as much as possible so we avoid this type of situations. I know sometimes there are things that we cannot avoid and we need to do it because it is needed, it is urgent, and then we may have to drop everything else and just focus on this. But I think in that moment, it's also important to have the conversation, even if it's a quick one. Okay, so is this priority? Is this what we're going to focus on right now? And this is the expectation. I think those are valid questions. And then also ask, okay, whatever I was working on, how do we deal with that right now? So do we put it on a waiting list for now? Like, do we schedule it for tomorrow? So I think with all of this stress management and time pressure, it is important to still discuss those expectations. And I remember too, as I was, looking for more information about this, I came across um, with a matrix that actually I never applied or heard of, and it's the matrix of urgent and important. And I found it fascinating because sometimes we may be doing things that are not as urgent or important, and we may think they are. So it's a good assessment. And I actually posted it yesterday as we were preparing for this live, where you have a quadrant. So it's like 4 squares, and the first square is urgent and important. So it's something that you have to do right now, and you have to pay full attention to this. But then the other quadrants are like important but not urgent, not important, not urgent, and not important, and so on. Like, you can organize your task in a way and give them that number of priority. I think that's, to me, that was like wow, this is a game changer. I think I can apply that to my daily agenda and not feel like everything has to be done now and everything is urgent. Because life is not about everything just being urgent all the time.
That's so true, and I love that that concept of really being clear on the expectation and what is really important and what is really urgent. Years ago, I worked as a secretary when I first started my professional life, and at one point I worked for several engineers, and whenever they wanted me to do something, of course, theirs was always high priority. So, this is urgent, has to be done right away. And sometimes I'd find myself with, maybe 5 things for different people that were urgent and had to be done right away. And whenever that kind of thing happened, I would go to my boss and I would say, okay, everyone is saying theirs is the highest priority. Can you, and if I go back to that person, they're going to say mine is the highest priority. So I said, I have to have some guidance on which it really is the highest priority. Which would you like to see me do first? And then which is the next and which is the next? Because clearly I can't do them all at the same time. And so, I think sometimes I think we have a reluctance to ask or to say something to someone. But if you have to go above, whoever's asking you to do these things, it's important for you to be clear, because how can you do a good job if you're trying to make everything urgent? I also I had a job one time where it was my job. So it was a construction management company, and they would receive requests for proposals. So they would then, if they were interested in submitting a proposal, they would put a presentation together, and it was my job to actually physically make the presentation. So they would give me the information, I would make the presentation, give it to them, and they would go and give that presentation. Now there was always a deadline on that, and what always happened was they would receive a request for proposal, and it might sit on their desk for weeks, maybe even months, and then it might be 2 days before the deadline, and then all of a sudden they give it to me and say, this has to be done now. And that used to really frustrate me. And actually I ended up leaving that job because nothing was going to change. I mean, so for me, that was setting a boundary, because it's like, what are you willing to tolerate? That was not okay for them to have it for weeks or months and then give me only 2 days or a day. I mean, there were times I worked through the night to get those presentations ready. And so I had to reach a point, and it took a while, where I said, I'm not tolerating this anymore. I need to leave, because nothing will change. There was nobody I could go to change that situation. So you have to be realistic and think about, how can you do your best work?
Right.
You can't if you're being dumped on, really, at the last minute, or expected to do everything at the same time, and everything is urgent. So I think it's important to have that awareness. And it comes down to boundaries, like we talked about on a previous episode as well. I think also it's important to remember, because some people will tell me that they thrive on deadlines. And if you don't give them a deadline, they're not going to get it done. And I do understand that to a certain extent. I mean, because it can be helpful to know, when do you need this by? When do you really need this by? And then you can plan your time accordingly. But then other people really feel stressed when they have a deadline, especially multiple deadlines.
Right. Yeah, I think it depends on your personality and how you work. It creates, when you have a deadline, it creates that rush and that adrenaline and everything, that, all the chemistry inside of you, that it's giving you that pump for you to do things. But is it sustainable? Are you going to be always doing this? Because yes, the stress response, it is useful. It is there to help you in those situations, but it's not intended to last for long periods of time, because then eventually it can turn into chronic fatigue, into so many other things that are not healthy.
Mm.
So I think planning it's very important, and also acknowledging that sometimes even if you're putting your best effort and you're having the conversations, but if the other side is not willing to compromise, to work with you, then it may lead to other decisions, like what you experienced in your job. That wasn't sustainable for you to spend nights working on tight lines, and just last minute, when this was already sent like weeks ago. That's
Yeah.
not that's not sustainable. It's not fair. It's not something that you can continue doing. Maybe one time if there was a mistake,
Mm.
but no. And those, I know those are difficult situations and decisions, but I think it's important that you own those things and you empower yourself, because you have to watch for yourself and what's good for you and also your well-being.
Absolutely. And this is where self care
Mm-mm.
always has to be a priority. Because, when I was working on those projects, everybody else had gone home. I was the only one there working on these things. And, I just eventually got to the point where I realized I was not going to tolerate this anymore. It wasn't sustainable, like you say. I think, there are things that you can do. Obviously, there are going to be times when something is urgent and important, and maybe you have a couple of things. And if you notice that it creates some kind of stress in you, I think, first of all, it's important to acknowledge that. And then, secondly, to ask yourself, what can I do to help myself through this, if you like, help myself stay calm and focus through this. And things like taking a pause and just taking a few slow, deep breaths, that really helps to calm the body down. I think also breaking, if it's a big project, breaking it down into smaller pieces and asking yourself, what's the first most important thing to do? And when rather than looking at the whole thing and letting it feel very overwhelming, you can break it down into smaller pieces. And one of the things that's helped me, so I'll just share it, and that is I used to struggle with time management a lot, and I tried various time management tools and techniques and things like that. Never really worked for me. What did work for me was managing my energy instead of trying to manage my time. And what that means is that I make sure my energy is in the right place, and um, I'm feeling energized enough to put, the energy that I'm putting into what I'm doing is good. And sometimes that might mean, I have this huge project, but maybe I just need to go and take a minute to just step away from it and sort of do a reset, an energy reset, and then come back to it. And our initial reaction to that can be, oh, I can't step away. I can't do that because I have to get this done. But what it can do is it can put your energy in a place where it's much easier for you. There's more flow in what you're
Yes.
doing, and there's not so much struggle. So those are just some of the things that I
Yeah,
feel.
I resonate with that. And I have found ways to work better at certain times that I know my energy levels are higher. And it depends on the type of task that
Yeah.
I have to do. But for me, I've always, like after lunch, I've noticed that I feel more tired, that I can't really engage in tasks that are too analytical or things like that. But if I take 5 to 10, 15-minute nap, meaning, I don't have to go to sleep. It's just closing my eyes and maybe doing a meditation, a guided meditation, or some kind of breathing exercise. For me, it's a total reset. And it
Mm,
works wonders because
mm.
I feel my energy has shifted. I feel re energized and ready to continue with my afternoon projects.
Yeah, it's amazing when you come at something with the right energy, with the best energy.
Mhm.
There's much more of a flow, and you can do things much more easily, I find, than if you try to force yourself to do something and you're not feeling right, there's no flow there. It will be much harder to do, and it will take you much longer. And you know, this was a, I won't say this was an easy concept for me to grasp initially, because your mind says, well, don't be stupid, I can't stop and meditate, I can't walk away and come back, so I have to get this done. But when you do that and you take care of your energy, then the doing of whatever it is you have to do seems to flow much more easily. So I would recommend trying that and
Yes.
how you get on. But I think it does, like you said right in the beginning, it comes down to, you know, what you're being asked to do, what the expectations are, how urgent and important is it really, um, and perhaps you need to have that conversation first, especially if you have multiple things that they're saying are all urgent and important.
Yes. Yes.
So, yeah. Well, look at that. Our time is up again. Um,
Really?
so yeah, I mean, again, this is something we could continue to talk about. And right at the beginning of the live stream, you heard us trying to decide what we're going to talk about next week. And I think one of the I'd made a note, but one of the things that had been requested was about being part of a team and feeling supported. Is that right? Do you remember that? So maybe that's what we cover next
Yes.
week. Does that sound good?
Yeah, we could do that. And there are so many other ideas. So keep
Yeah.
them coming.
Keep them
There
coming.
is the
Yes.
form that you can complete, or you can send us a note if there
Yes.
is anything that you'd like us to discuss, to cover here. Yeah,
Yes.
let us know.
Yes. We love to hear from you. Any thoughts that you have and any ideas for topics. And yeah, a pleasure again talking with you, Alyssa. Hopefully, I will get my LinkedIn sorted out by by next week.
Yes.
But yes, it's just one of those things. All right. Well, thank you so much, Alyssa. Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody, for watching.
Linda. Thank you.
And remember, your wellness is important, and you know you need
Yes.
to pay attention to that. That that's it's important for you to feel good about what you're doing.
Yes. And it
So
doesn't have to take a long time.
it doesn't. No. All right. Thank you so much, and we will talk again next week. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.